Good evening. Good evening, friends. Good evening, one and all. It's Valerie Ling here, coming to you live from my home office today. I'm about to deliver a webinar to 20 couples in the Gottman method, and I'm really looking forward to it. But I've got about, let me see, um, 14 minutes before the webinar starts proper. And as I was sitting here, I wanted to share with you some thoughts from a conversation I've had about what does it mean to actually have a learning organization, an organization that learns and grows. So first of all, burnout is about the relationship that we have, not just with ourselves in terms of what we can do to take care of ourselves and slow down and pace, but it is also a relationship that we have with the workplace that we're in, right? And I also think it blends and lends itself really nicely to when we're thinking also about how families wear and tear. So, if you think about a family structure, you can work on an individual to a certain extent and say, you've got to make the shifts and you've got to change the way that you do things. But very often, the distress that we see, the conflict that we experience, is embedded in the family system. There are numerous relationships that are going on. There's history in the family. There are stresses upon the family. And I often say that family is all about teamwork. And so, if you're going to understand what's happening to an individual, you've actually got to understand what's happening in the whole system. And very similarly, in an organization, this is also the case. So, I'd like to say that we learn and grow together as an organization, but the organization also learns and grows together with their team. And so, what this actually means is when we're looking at any kind of system, whether it's a family system or if it's a work system, a culture that encourages reflection and feedback and evaluation and is open to listening and really exchanging the point of view is really important. And as rightly came up today in the conversation that I had with someone, the organization can also work really hard to figure out how they can do an exchange of point of view so that when we are talking with one another, we actually understand where each other is coming from. Organizations that are reflective, that take the time to actually listen and think about their own mission, about their own vision, what they stand for, where the compromisable bits are, where the non compromisable bits are, and communicating that, being able to communicate that so that it's understood by all. And then figure out where the compromisable bits are in terms of where the wiggle room can be to adjust, they grow. And when organizations grow, they provide credibility and trust back into the team space that actually says that just as we need to take feedback and evaluation and grow, the organization that we work in is also listening and taking feedback for them to grow. And the bottom line is both entities will have to figure out where their boundaries are, where their lines of negotiation are, and where their firm lines of non-negotiation are. And an exchange of a point of view then means that we need to actually respect where those boundaries are. Because once we can understand where they are, and once we can actually have a mapping of what is expected of us, then it is also up to us to value and respect that boundary. So learning comes in many different forms. Of course, one of the most standard ways is when we train, when we develop, when we have cross communication with one another, when we extend curiosity as an attitude as well. When we're actually listening in and asking questions and wondering where that perspective or where that point of view has come from, curiosity breeds a wonderful culture of openness. So, openness as a competency is a highly valued competency, not just for individuals, but as a culture. And openness doesn't mean that we just ask open ended questions, but openness means that for a period of time, we actually explore with open mindedness where the perspective lies, where the history is, why people have come up with that perspective or point of view, and remain as open as possible not to inject our own interpretation and point of view into it. So, very similarly, you can actually transpose this to family structures, where very often, particularly older children, can feel like adults intrude upon their space by judging and interpreting what they're saying. Just because a string of words is said doesn't mean that that's necessarily the intent or the message behind it. Remaining open, remaining curious means that the family system can actually learn and grow together by saying, we've got to update our knowledge of one another. We've got to update our assumptions of one another. We've got to update what your dreams and hopes are. We've got to update where some of your injuries are, emotional wounds that we may not have known existed, that may be explaining why you're behaving that way. Okay, that's all I have for you this evening. Catch you later.